All right, what up, everybody? My name is Chris Johnson, at CJ_Johnson17TH on Twitter.
Boss Ace, no time zone underscore on Twitter. What's going on?
Cool. So what we did basically is we're just two friends that, met. We kind of just became like brothers, and I know a lot of people want to hear like a lot of information about us or, learn about us a little bit more or whatever. So I just decided to hop on Twitter and say 50 people retweet this and me and him will make a podcast. We got 50 retweets and it didn't take long. So here we are.
Yeah, we got to get to it.
Yeah. So we're just going to talk a little bit about everything, about like health, wealth, family, lifestyle, money, all this good stuff. We're just going to be open and honest with you guys. Hopefully this helps somebody out. Hopefully drop some gems for somebody. I know we'll drop some gems for people. But I think we have unique, cool-ass stories. And, we'll share them.
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right.
So a lot of people always want to know, they're like, how did you guys meet? Like, what's your guys' story or whatever, right? So let me give you guys just a quick little introduction on how me and Chris met. So we had this training that we had to do that was in Illinois, and so the class had already started. So the training is already going, and they were like, oh, we're missing this guy, Chris, right? And so this was the first day. Everybody was there, but Chris wasn't there the first day. So
for context, this is February of, or January. No, this is January of 2014.
Yeah, January of 2014. So I'm in this class, and, it's kind of boring. It's just a bunch of book stuff or whatever. And so the teacher was like, yeah, we're missing someone, this guy, Chris Johnson or whatever. So whatever, not thinking nothing of it. So that was on, I think we started class on a Friday. So that Monday, Chris comes in, and here comes in this energetic ass dude just bouncing in the class. And so we would get like a break every hour. Every hour we would go over the curriculum or whatever, and then we get like a little 15-minute break. So, when guys don't know each other, they usually like to talk about sports or whatever. So mind you, me, I'm not a morning person at all. So I'd be dead tired in these classes, just sitting there, and I'm kind of to myself. So I'm just sitting over in my corner, just listening to these dudes talk about who's the best basketball player, whatever, right? And here goes this guy, Chris, just in every single conversation that these guys have. All you do is you hear Chris over everybody talking about who's better than who and this and that. I'm like, if this dude don't shut the fuck up, like all he's doing is running his mouth, right? So fast forward, the class gets over, and everybody's finding out where their job is at. Some people are all going different locations. And so me and Chris were going to the same place, and I didn't know, and he didn't know either. And then so when I get out to the place out in Germany, I'm there before he got there. So I was out there for probably about a week or two before Chris got out there. So I didn't even think he was going to be there. But sure enough, here comes this guy, Chris, bouncing around the corner. I'm like, if this ain't this old energetic ass motherfucker right here. So we're like in cubicles. So he's a cubicle over from me, and everybody's trying to get stuff situated. And so Chris had just got there, and everybody else has already been there for years. Everybody's already established. Everybody has their car. Like, I've lived overseas many times, so I knew how everything worked. I already have my car out
the way, so you guys know.
Yeah, so everything, like everybody else was settled in and had their place where they live. Chris is coming. He doesn't know where he's going to live. His appointments are all on this side of Germany. We're on this side of Germany. And so, like, people are getting frustrated that he doesn't have a car, but it's like, how do you expect him to have a car? This is his first time overseas. Yeah. Like, he doesn't know how any of this stuff operates, and he has to go to all these different locations to get stuff going. So he was asking them to give him a ride, and they were like, nobody wanted to give him a ride to the post office. So I just pop up. I'm like, hey, just come ride me to the post office, man. I got you. Like, don't even worry about what they're talking about. So I take him to the post office, and really, from that moment on, I think we've been friends since then. I think that's like kind of how it started.
Yeah, and what's crazy about the whole story is it was literally people's job to give me, like, when you see somebody's assigned to take care of you. So it was literally somebody's job to take care of me, to make sure I can get to the post office. Because you can't just go out and buy a car, because you got to have a driver's license to drive within Europe,
Yeah,
so,
you got to get that European driver's license.
Yeah, so basically what happens is people have been there for 2, 3, 4 years. So the idea of them getting a driver's license, all that stuff, that's beyond them. So when I get there, they just like, I don't know what it was about me, but I feel like when I walked in, you felt it too, bro. When I walked in, I feel like I just thrown everyone off. Like, they were just like, right away, day one.
Day one, yep.
Eventually, they got over you too, but
Yeah. Yeah, they try to throw me to the alligators out there, boy. Oh
yeah,
boy. Because I was so close with this guy. That's the reason why. Like they didn't like that me and him were friends. Like that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But it's crazy how people don't like certain people associated with certain people or have fun or enjoying life. Like, I don't know.
I truly think this is what I think, man. I think that, like, I walk around smiling and laughing and all this stuff. And I think that shit throws people off, man. Like,
Yeah, it really
I
does.
almost feel like people kind of look at me in a way like, damn, like, you have the audacity to walk in here cracking jokes. Like, this shit.
People just don't want other people being happy. And that's like a weird thing. Like, I get it. Like, you don't have to be best friends or all in someone's face, but if somebody's happy, how can that affect you in any type of way? Like, why let another person's happiness or sadness affect you in any kind of way? Like, that's just kind of weird in my opinion. But that's how a lot of those people were. Like, we would always take trips every weekend or every other weekend, and we'd come back and we'd talk about the crazy things that we did on the trips. And like, people were like, it got to a point where they made a rule that we couldn't talk about things that we did. Like,
I know.
Like weird shit like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, I shared this story on Twitter too, like fast forward into, us being out there and stuff. When it was time, like we would sit around because we weren't like working a lot. Like it wasn't a lot of work to do. So we would just kind of sit around and just look into business stuff and looking at financial stuff on Yahoo Finances, like talking about, like money, stock market, blah, 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 all this stuff.
Everything.
They would just be like, yeah, you can't use your computer for that. And these are the same people that are on Facebook.
Yep, all day. They're on Facebook all day at work.
Yeah, like following the gossip all day long. Like, oh, look at little Jimmy did this and little Timmy did that. But when me and him talking about like, oh damn, look what Amazon's doing, or this is look at this company, they started doing this, blah blah. All of a sudden, you can't use your computer for that or whatever. Yeah, that was a really like eye-opening experience for me, like living overseas and working over there. Because you see that some people say they want to travel, right? Almost everybody says they want to travel, but we were living.
Hardly any. Like literally, we were probably the only two people in the office of about 15 that traveled. Mind you, every single person had a BMW. They had a Mercedes. Yeah. They had like all these.
Everybody drove a car that was more than their salary.
Yeah, they was like $50,000 plus cars. Everybody always said they want to travel. So mind you, just to kind of give you an example of how cheap it is to travel in Europe, you can literally get a round trip ticket from, let's say, Germany to somewhere nice in Italy for like 15 or 20 bucks round trip after taxes. Like it's literally that easy. And when you get to these countries, it's cheap to get a train from like, let's say, from Rome to Naples, or from Naples up to Milan, like wherever you want to go, you can get a train for probably about 10 or 15 bucks. So it's not very expensive at all. Yeah. But they just wouldn't, like people say they want to travel, but for whatever reason, they just never did.
Yeah. And what it really like showed me is people say they want to travel. They actually move to another country. Like now you're living in the middle of Germany, and Europe is a lot smaller than America. Like, in America, you could drive 6 hours and you could leave Texas, drive 6 hours, still be in Texas.
Still be in Texas, yep.
It's not like that in Europe.
At all in Europe, at all.
I think the whole country of Germany is the size of Texas.
It is. You can get from the top to the bottom in 6 hours, but you can go side to side. Like, for instance, if you're over in the Stuttgart, Munich area, which is considered south, but it's kind of like bottom southeast Germany, you can drive all the way over and get into France like it's nothing. Yeah. And that's all the way on the other side. So it's like you can drive a couple hours and be in a different country. But once you get to these other countries, like mind you, this is just Germany only. So you have countries like Luxembourg that take you like 30 minutes to drive through. You have countries like Belgium, depending on what part of Belgium you want to go to, you can drive through Belgium in a couple hours. And then you got the Netherlands touching that. And then you keep going, like you got all these nice countries that aren't big size-wise, like how Germany is, but you can really hit a lot of countries. I think there's 9 different countries that surround Germany that you could drive to, like in a couple days.
Wouldn't leave the area. They wouldn't even leave the area that we worked. Like
yeah, we were 45 minutes from the border of France.
Yeah, man, and it's crazy because what's the point of having a good-paying job to get a very nice car while you're living overseas if you're not going to drive it anywhere? You know what I mean? Like now you just look like the coolest person driving around the little city. You know what I mean? Like,
and you got the Autobahn out there, so there's no speed. Like there's certain areas where there's speed limits, but they have the Autobahn, which is literally open road. Like that's what those cars are for. and people like you just getting it pretty much just so you can say I have a BMW. That's all people were doing.
Yep. So that was like, I was 22 when I moved out, and it really opened my mind to like how people navigate through life, like just willing to self-sabotage themselves. Like, and then me being like this young, I was definitely the youngest person there that worked there. And I don't know, everything just seemed to boil back to, oh, you're just like that because you're young, Like, these people let life defeat them. But from the outside looking in, it looked like they were winning. They had a good job, they had a good car, they had families, they had all these things, and they were fucking miserable. So
miserable every day.
And we were just kicking it, bro. And we were just kicking it. Yeah. So I remember, I had booked a flight, or I was about to book a flight to Ibiza. You remember this?
Yeah.
I was about to go to Ibiza, and you were booking a flight to Latvia, Riga, Latvia, and you're like, bro, you don't want to go to Ibiza right now. There's so many tourists there. Like, let's go to Latvia. But I don't know anything about Europe, and he's lived in Europe for a while, and he knows Europe like the back of his hand. So what ended up happening was he told me, oh, just come with me or whatever. So I look up, I'm on Google, and I look up Ibiza, and it looks like, an island with a bunch of partying going on. It looks like the place you want to be. And then when you look up Riga, Latvia, it just looks like
dead. It looks like the place you don't want to be. Like, it just doesn't, nothing about Latvia screams fun. Like, nothing about it. But to give people like a perspective, Ibiza is like the Cancun of spring break for Europe. So everybody goes to Ibiza like for their version of their spring break, like how Cancun is, or wherever you want to, Fort Lauderdale, or wherever people go for spring break or whatever. Like, that's their version. So it's literally an island that has probably like 20 different clubs. You see people passed out on the beach, like people just going in. Like, that's all Ibiza is about.
I think what would you compare Riga to?
Yeah, Riga, on the outside looking in, Riga is like a place like you would not even think of going.
It's like Springs or something. Like, you wouldn't even think about traveling there.
Like, it's I don't know, because I don't really know how to describe Riga, because I think it was one of the last countries to get out of the Soviet Union, because I believe when we were there, they had, remember where they tortured people? They had just started allowing tourists to go visit there. Yeah, so I don't know. It's like a cold, I guess if you were not to know anything about it, maybe cold, just a place not where there's any fun, but that's completely wrong.
It was definitely, it seemed like, according to Google, it seemed like bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah.
And we booked that flight, and we got there, and I remember specifically, I don't even know if you remember this, but I remember specifically, I went to watch you because I remember you telling me that you've been to all these places and whatever, and I just remember just like watching how calculated you were. Like, so for example, when we landed, we got a cab, right? When we got the cab, you pulled out your phone and you started your timer.
Yep.
You were timing how long it would take us to get from the airport to the hotel. And I was wondering, like, what were you doing? And when I asked you to explain it, you said, because you're gonna have to know how long or how early you need to leave to get back. And I'm like, damn, man, all this is so new to me. I just moved to Europe.
Yep.
And I'm like, this dude is like seasoned. Like, this dude whipped out his phone. He was like, all right, it took us 32 minutes. So we're gonna have to leave, like, and I'm not thinking about even leaving because I'm just excited to be there. You know what I mean? We just landed and you're already prepared. I'm like, damn, this dude's on top of his game, like.
You gotta be, man. You gotta be prepared, especially when you're in. That's the thing, the unknown. I'm not even gonna lie. When I first got out to Europe, I was pretty young when I very first got out there, and the guys that I were hanging around, they didn't travel and they didn't want to travel. So there was this group thing that was going on where they were going up to Amsterdam. That was my very first trip was up to Amsterdam, and I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know. Just a typical American, like, is there Walmart? Do they have food? Is there internet? Like, what, like, you know what I mean? Like, dumb questions, obviously, that are dumb, now, but like, it's things that, because it's a whole unknown, like a different language, like, they don't really show, when you're young, you don't really care about watching the media to see what's going on in Europe. Like, you just know Europe has soccer, you know what I mean? Like, that there's the Eiffel
Towers over there.
Right. The Eiffel Towers over there, about the red light district, things like that, right? So when I'm going on this trip, you know, I'm just kind of thinking like I'm riding this bus with all these random people. Mind you, it was a trip by myself. It was my first solo trip. I think I had been in Europe for maybe 3 weeks, and all these guys want to do is party. And I was like, you know, I don't mind partying. I was young at that time. I was like, I don't mind partying, but I really want to travel Europe. Like, I want to take advantage of being out here. So taking that bus ride, I just started thinking like, on the way to Amsterdam, I started thinking about 5 other places that I wanted to go to. Yeah. Already in my mind, I'm like, dang, I haven't even got to Amsterdam yet, but I'm thinking like, all right, where do I want to go next? And I'm thinking, okay, how can I give myself the most advantage while I'm out here? Like, what type of things do I need to know? Yeah. What type of hotel do I need to stay at? Like, do I need to be close to the train station because I want to take the train? Like, is there a bus that goes there? Like, what type of currency do these people use? Like, all these different questions that I had to ask myself.
And what's crazy is you went off to learn these things, not knowing, or I'm sure not guessing that years later you would go show people like me. Because I don't know how old you were when you first moved to Europe, but when I moved there, it was probably like you seeing your younger self again. Like,
yeah, that's exactly what it was. Like, that's like literally like a lot of stuff. That's what I seen. I seen a lot of you and me. You were just years behind me getting out there, but I seen a lot of the things that you did, a lot of things that you were interested in. Like I said, as we became friends longer, we seen how similar we were. But at the time, not knowing you and not knowing someone, not knowing, you know, their background, you being where you're from, me being where I'm from, you know, kind of similar stories, different situations, you know, but it's like you never know how much you can really trust someone, especially when you're first just meeting them. But, you know, as our friendship grew, I seen that like, all right, this dude just reminds me of me when I was like at this point traveling around to this place. Like, that's how you reminded me.
That's crazy, man. Because like, yeah, so you go through things. That's kind of like a beauty of life. You go through things and then you turn around and teach other people, you know, like whatever reasons. But it's crazy because like you said, what's really crazy is my cousin lived out there too. So when I got to Germany, I'm thinking I'm going to hang out with my cousin every day. So I grew up with him. He's my first cousin. And I'm thinking we're going to kick it every single day. When I got out there, I must have hung out with this dude like maybe less than 15 times, like really. We didn't take any trips together. You and him took a trip together. I never even took a trip with him or anything.
Yep.
What ended up happening was me and you just became really close. You know, like I went out there thinking I'd be hanging out with my cousin and I'm meeting you, and then we became close. And it's even crazy because my mom will say like, oh, you just my another son of mine, you know, like even my mom sees the similarities between us. So it was just like really random, you know, like for us to meet and connect or whatever. And then, you know, we went through our ups and downs out there, and then you see like our friendship lasted longer than all the bullshit we went through, you know?
Yep.
But anyway, to cap this off, that Riga trip ended up being like the intro to everything. Cause you told me like, yo, you could be in the club partying with these dudes cause it's all dudes out there, dude. Just hit the club, or you can go see the world. So what's crazy is you're not really even picking a social life versus traveling. It's not one or the other, because we would travel and then we would go party while we travel.
Exactly. And that's the main thing that I try to like get people to understand is like, we preach a lot about not spending money in the clubs, like where you're at, because people do it in the city that they're in. Like they constantly do that all the time. Like I'm not saying don't party and don't club, don't have a good time. I'm not saying that, but why not do that when you're taking a trip somewhere? Like why not, you know, or you don't even have to do that, but I'm just saying it's like so many people think that you have to give up your social life just to go travel, and that's not the case at all.
Yeah, because if you were to think about it, if you and your boys went out, had a good time in the club, like let's say in America, and you spent $300 that night in your own town, and you've been to that same club 100 times, that's pretty stupid. But if you were to fly to a whole nother state or drive to a whole nother state and have that same experience, but just somewhere that you're not from, maybe you went to, you know, a different state, maybe you did it in Alabama and you're from Georgia, or maybe you did it in Miami and you're from LA, that makes it more fun, you know? So it's not really even about like giving up fun or anything like that. It's just finding new experiences. Because what we would do is we would go sightsee in the morning, and then we go back to the hotel, take a power nap, and then we would go party, you know? Like, so we've seen everything that it is to see. We experienced the culture. We sat in the restaurants. We did all these things, and then we would just go hit the club.
People took public transportation, like all the things.
We did everything. You know, we're riding public transportation. Like, yeah, so keep in mind, there's no Uber and Lyft out there. Like, nah, you got to get fast on that bus.
Yep.
So, And it was cool, like, to see that. It was cool to see like how you structure, like, you know, your whole like travel fun. And then what's crazy is like, so when we would talk about these things to like our coworkers or our friends, it's like, what are you guys doing this weekend? We're like, oh, we're just gonna go here. And it kind of sounds boring, like, oh, we're gonna get here when there's a big party in our local hometown, and we're just gonna go party somewhere else, you know, like we're just gonna go do somewhere. We're gonna go get lost in some bar in the middle of nowhere, you know.
Yep.
And man, it ended up being really dope. It ended up being really dope.
And
So
the main thing that I try to tell people is that when you do things like take a trip with your friends or your spouse or family members, you're gonna remember that stuff for the rest of the life. There's been times when we were living in Germany and went to the club. I don't even remember any of those times. But when we went to Latvia, I remember our times going out there. Or when we went to Luxembourg or wherever, if we went to France and we would go to the fish market here, like you remember those type of things. Like you don't remember how many times you went to the same club in your same town.
I can recall our whole trip to Switzerland.
Yeah.
Like, every single day. Like I just remember. I remember sitting on a train to get out there. But like you said, the nights that we did go to the clubs and stuff like that, I don't remember because it was whack.
Exactly.
All right, so yeah, that's our story. That's how we met, man, and that's kind of just how this whole thing started. And then what else I want to share about this whole thing is he was there with me when I thought of the idea of the watch company. So I want you to tell a story from your perspective about me starting this watch company.
So mind you, every day, I promise you, we had so much free time that every day we must have looked at thousands of different stocks. I kid you not. Like, imagine being in this office that you can't really leave and you have computer access. So it's like, what are you going to do? You're just going to look up a bunch of random stuff. So we will look up every single stock you could think of. We would just shout out a different stock, you know, Nike, Microsoft, Puma, Adidas, Apple, whatever. We would just see what it was going. We would look at trends because, you know, I was heavy into stocks and he was starting to get heavy into stocks. Yeah. So we would just always try to find trends and this and that. So we will look at that type of stuff. We will look up what athletes did what, like what kind of accolades did they have. Like Iverson had this much stuff. So we, like literally every day we were just always looking up anything from stupid, funny videos to YouTube to how to make money doing whatever. So one day he was like, I think I want to start a watch company. I'm like, really? I'm like, why? He was like, I like watches. He was like, and I think it would be dope to have my own brand, to wear my own watch and to sell it. Like, I think it's just a dope idea. So I was like, okay, well, tell me, what do you need to start? He was like, I don't know. I was like, okay, well, figure out what you need and get back to me and let me know. Cause I was like, I'm going to ask you where you're at with it. So he goes back.
There's no Twitter gurus talking about starting brands. This was like,
this was literally just an idea that he had formed. And then so came about, right? So probably like once a week I would ask him, or if he figured out something new. So every time he figured out something new, he would tell me that he figured something out new. Or every week if he didn't tell me something, I'm like, bro, what's going on? Like, what's up with the watches? Like, where are you at? Like, what's up? Like, you talked about it and I put it to action. So I just remember, and it's funny because I still have all the pictures on my laptop. I got to send them to you. So he sent me the very first. He figured out how to get like a design made. So he had like 4 different logos. So he did what was it? You found out Fiverr? Was that the one? Which one were they do?
48-hour logos.
Yeah, 48-hour logos. So he put out there that he wanted a logo, and he asked me which were my top 4. So I picked out the top 4. He found 2.
Have all this stuff?
Huh?
You still have all this?
Yeah, I still have all this. So he asked me to pick out my top 4. I picked out 4, and he liked 2 of the 4 that I said. So he took those 2 and 2 that he liked. And then so it was from those. And then he didn't find the logo that he wanted that first time. He thought he found one he wanted, but he didn't like it. So a couple days later, he did it again. He found another logo. So boom, he found the logo. And then now he's trying to figure out how to put it in play. So now he's like contacting these people over in China. So he's like showing me the WhatsApp messages from like these Chinese.
Over the course of months too. This isn't like because
everything myself.
It took.
Yeah, this is all over a span of probably 5 to 8 months, I'd say. So mind you, we're still traveling, we're still enjoying life, but on the time that he has, he's slowly getting like this watch brand together. So he's putting it together, and then he's like, I got some ideas, some other things that I want to go with the watch, the whole water supply thing that you had did, the love bracelets and the love hats and all these things. So, you know, slowly but surely, this whole process is starting to come together. It's starting to click. It's starting to mesh. He's starting to get all the pieces of the pie put together. And then before you know it, he's like, bro, I'm ready to launch. So I think you had the watch ready to go, and I don't think you actually launched for like another 2 or 3 weeks. I think you were just so nervous.
Yeah, I didn't know it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were just so nervous to launch that I was like, bro,
There was so many.
Sitting on it is not going to do you any good. So it's like, what people don't get is like sitting on something is not going to just put it out there and eventually work on it as you go, like you've been doing. Like, I've seen your website from when it was being in production to what it is now. Like, you've made adjustments as time goes on. Like, that's
you don't need a perfect plan. You just need to execute.
You don't need a plan at all. Like, if you look at his notepad and his notes, they're literally all over the place. Like, there's no way a coder would be able to decipher this guy's notes because they're just all over the place. But he just slowly kept putting stuff into play. Like, he wanted to start a watch brand, so he figured out how to start a watch. He needed a website, so he figured out how to start a website.
Yeah.
You know, he had to contact these suppliers, so he was contacting these different suppliers. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, you just do that shit. Just do it.
Yeah, and you know what's really crazy about this thing is, like, one, there was no resources to go to, and then two, you kept finding like small bumps in the road. Like, so for example, I couldn't use the local post office to ship out watches because it wasn't for business purposes.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, I'm in Germany. The manufacturer's in China. I'm selling to Americans. There's 3 countries involved right there. The logistics were nuts. So I had to send it to, you know, the girl I was dating at the time, had to send her my whole inventory.
I remember that. Yeah.
And trust her to ship for me and all these things, man. So that was crazy. And then I remember you said that you wanted to dive into real estate, right? So you kept telling me, like, you know, you want to dive into real estate, and you had a few friends back home that, you know, knew a few things about business, and some of your friends' fathers even own companies and stuff like that. And you wanted to dive into it. But the main issue was you were in Germany. So you can't really like hit up a realtor in, like, let's say Austin, Texas, and be like, hey, I'm in Germany. I won't be home for another 2 years, but, you know, I want to buy a property or something like that, you know? So I remember back in, this was, 2015, early like 2015, that's what you said, or maybe it was late 14, that you went to get in real estate, and I had my watch thing going, and somehow, some way, we were just going to make this shit work. There were so many hurdles, so many obstacles, so much stuff that we didn't know. So one thing I really want to tell people about is when you come from absolutely nothing,
you have nobody to turn to. Like, you literally have nobody to turn to.
I can't turn to my mom for $100 right now. You know what I mean? Like, so she can't teach me about life. She can't teach me about business, networking. Like, she can't teach me anything. I just have to pick what I learned from her, or, you know, like, just the way that my family was structured. So you have to learn so much just to be a part of the middle class. Like, just, you know, because it's like a social class, you got to learn so much. Like, man, there's certain things I didn't know. Like, there are certain things that, for instance, he taught me. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that I didn't know. Like, it's a big deal if somebody's having an event at their house on the weekend and you never come. Then people looking at you like, it's like, why don't you come? Right. I don't think about stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know how to socialize with different types of, like, groups of people and stuff. So much stuff you have to learn. So you come from the bottom, you learn all this stuff. Or another thing too, like when it comes to finances, for instance, from me growing up poor to me seeing everybody that's living overseas with a really, really nice car. And then I have to, like, think in my mind, these people are living paycheck to paycheck. I have to see past the flash. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this BMW X5 just came out, but this person can't afford to even, you know what I mean? Can't even afford a mistake. So you have to look past that stuff to go from the middle class to, you know, try to go a little higher than that.
Right.
So there's a lot. So there's like a lot of things like that we have to deal with, just learning basic things just to try to, you know, just to attempt to take it to the next level. You know what I mean? Like, and then there's no promise or guarantee that you're going to make it to the next level. You just, you know, like, you just got to take a chance.
Yeah, that's always been the hardest part is, like, you know, and I don't even want to say it's just our culture, but our culture, I mean, obviously we've experienced other cultures, but us growing up, it's all we know. You know what I mean? Our culture is really all we knew. So we seen people living paycheck to paycheck. We seen people living off the government. We seen all these things that aren't the right way, but that's when you're growing up in these environments, going from different school to different school to different school to different school, sleeping on this person's couch, living with this aunt, living with this uncle, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff does so much stuff to a kid growing up. Like there's no stability.
You don't know what normal looks like.
We don't know what normal looks like. You know what I mean? Because this is all we know. Like all we know is that, like one thing I can say that we've got from both our parents is that hustle. Like you gotta hustle. Like both of our parents hustled. It may or may not have been the legal way, but we seen them hustle. So we at least got that hustle drive for them and know like, hey, when situations get bad, we're gonna make it regardless of what happens because we've made it this far. You know what I mean? So we might have had to sleep in the car. We might have had to sleep on this person's couch or this person's floor, but we're still alive. We're still breathing. You know what I mean? So it's like, you just got to kind of look at that stuff and then kind of grow. And then when you get older, that's when you got to kind of decide, okay, this is the environment I grew up in. What can I do to get out? How can I get away from this? Like I see what they did all 18 years of my life, and it didn't work. You know what I mean? So what do I have to do personally to get myself out of this situation?
Okay, I got a question for you. At what age did you know or did you recognize this shit can't be life? Like,
when I was about 12 or 13.
What, like, do you remember what it was that made you realize, like, yo, this is a little off?
I was just bouncing around from different school. Like for me growing up, so I guess that's probably why I'm not very materialistic now is because I didn't have a lot of materialistic things growing up. So material stuff was never important to me. But when I was like 13, 14, you know, I grew up around a lot of gang members, so I wanted to be in a gang, right? So I'm like, all right. I was like, what do I got to do to get jumped in? So what, you know, all that happened, and then I realized I'm like, these dudes like literally don't do anything. Like all they do is they do is sit on the block all day and all night, right? I'm like, man, I like sports. I'm a hyper little dude. I love football. I love basketball. I love baseball. I love racing my friends. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm like, I gotta go to football practice or I gotta go to basketball practice. Like, I didn't have time to be just sitting around, hanging around with a bunch of dudes all day, every day. Not knocking those guys, but for me personally, that wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And a lot of the things that they were doing, people were going to juvie left and right. People were getting locked up left and right. So I'm like, I like my freedom. I like being out here. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't for me. So at that moment, I knew, okay, one, I definitely didn't want to be in a gang. Like when I was 13, I knew, okay, yeah, gangs was not for me. And then as I got older, starting getting different friends and interacting with different races, I seen what is available out there. I seen a good friend of mine that I talked about on the Twitter, my white friend of mine, his dad had started a business. He didn't have nothing growing up. Like he didn't even, I think he was adopted or something like that. He didn't have a stable family home. He pretty much got it out the mud himself. You know what I mean? So here's this white guy who kind of had the system against him, ended up starting his own company. He got him a little duplex, and he kind of showed me like why he had the duplex. He showed like, you know, this side is paying most of my rent, or eventually it's going to cover most of my rent, and I'll be able to pass it down to my son, which was my friend at the time. And then he had his business. He was like, you know, I didn't know banks weren't giving me loans because I didn't have, you know, this or that. So he scrounged out some money. He went and got a couple lawnmowers, got a couple, you know, weed whackers and this and that. And he ended up starting his own landscaping company, and he turned it over to his friend. He employed me in the summertime. He put money in my pocket. So, you know, at that moment, I'm like, okay, so this is what you have to do to get money. You have to actually work hard and not have high spending, because his dad wasn't a big spender. I already wasn't around people that had big cars and big houses and all that. So that wasn't an issue. So I'm like, okay, so get me up and have my spending low.
Hold on really quick. You keep telling your story, but hold on really quick.
All right. Yeah. So seeing him be able to get it from nothing really kind of showed me that I could get it. You know, it didn't matter that he was a white guy that was doing it. It still gave me hope that, okay, you know, I can do that too. So that's kind of what I took from that. And that's where my whole business mentality started to come from. Like, all right, when I'm of age, I'm definitely going to get away from this environment that I'm in, because not saying that people weren't doing positive things, but they weren't doing the things that I was trying to do. I always wanted to see the world. I always wanted to have financial freedom. So I had to figure out what it took to get financial freedom. I had to figure out what it took to travel the world. So those are some of the things that I had to take into consideration. So,
hey, you want to know what's real crazy too? Remember that time I came over to your house when we were still living in Germany? You showed me like some stuff from your high school.
Yeah.
It said like, it was something, I don't remember the specifics, but it said something along the lines of, where do you see yourself in like 5 years? Or where do you see yourself in 10 years? And you were probably in the 10th grade at the time, 11th grade, maybe, between 10th and 12th grade. And it said that you were going to be traveling the world.
Yep.
So what's crazy is, here we were, years later, you looking back as a teenager and you're like, damn, you called it, because we're sitting in Germany as you're reading
Right.
the world.
Yeah, so there was always something in me that I just knew I always wanted to travel the world.
Yeah.
There was something about the Eiffel Tower. I didn't know anything else about Europe. I probably couldn't even have told you any other country in Europe. I just knew that the Eiffel Tower was in Europe, so I wanted to go to Europe. Man. For whatever reason, I don't know where I seen it. Maybe it was a movie. Yeah. Maybe it was a poster. I don't know. Something about the Eiffel Tower just kind of inspired me as a kid. So I was like, I definitely got to go see the Eiffel Tower. What's crazy is that was like the 6th country I went to. It wasn't even like on the top of my list when I started seeing other things out there.
I think that was the first country I went to.
Yeah.
With Damo. But yeah, that's crazy. But I've seen that you had called it from a very young age, like.
Yeah.
Because most teenagers aren't thinking about traveling the world,
No,
teenagers might have a better perspective because they could see like what it's like via social media. They could see this person's traveling. This is where this, like, for instance, my sister, who's, as a teenager, can log on and see where I've been.
Right.
Like, if she didn't have social media, I would either have to show her a picture or she just wasn't going to see it. Right. So, before the social media age, like, most people didn't have the idea of traveling, unless they've been somewhere with their parents at least.
Yeah.
But
what was it for you that made you want to get out of your environment? Like, what defining moments were you like, you know what, like, this is not the place for me to be?
When I was in the 6th grade, so when you're in the 6th grade, you're about 11 years old.
Yeah.
I see the kid was 14 years old. He got shot, I think, like 32 times in his back. He survived too. But me, my older brother, and some of our friends were outside riding our bikes around. And across the street, this dude was like walking into his apartments, but there's like a little hill to get over. Like, if you wanted to walk through the grass, not walk the sidewalk, there's like a hill. So he started walking up the hill. He has his shoulder pads and his helmet in the like his shoulder pads pulled through the helmet, and he's walking with it in his hands, and a car just pulls up, bro, and they just start spraying, right? Yeah. So you got to think, to hit somebody 32 times, you don't have a handgun, right? Like, you're riding around with some type of like submachine gun or something.
Yep.
And then to think about it, you're hunting down a kid. You know what I mean? These grown men that pulled up, and you're like, damn, bro, like, what is this? But we were living in gang territory, and that's the type of shit that was happening. And that was like one of the things that kind of really inspired me. But not just growing up, not having a lot, not having food, never having food. Bro, you would come home from school. I don't know if you experienced this, but you'd come home from school. My mom done pawned our PlayStation or pawned our Nintendo 64, things like that, And then just being like a competitive kid, you at school talking shit to your friend, like, all right, come over to my house. I'm going to beat you in this. Let's play Tony Hawk. Let's do this. Then you go home and your shit's gone. Like, it's pawned. And I ain't never seen nothing come out of the pawn shop. It always goes in. It never comes out,
Always goes in.
Yeah. So just little things like that, man. And then when I got a little bit older, I became a teenager. What happened was I ended up moving with my aunt, and she was like, middle class. And you could see like the difference of lifestyle between my aunt and, let's say, my mom, right? So I'm like, damn, man, like, my aunt has a car. My mom didn't have a car. Nobody that I lived around even had a car. My aunt has a car. She goes shopping on the weekend. She do all this stuff. So I'm like, I'm trying to live this life, But if you're a teenager, you don't have no options. Like, you just got to go wherever you go.
Yeah.
So, and I was big into sports, and I thought I would go off and play college football. So that was like one big thing for me. I'm like, I'm just living like this until I can get off and play college football. Because nobody in the world couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, not a single person. Like, the damn commissioner of the NFL. So I'm like, I just got to live like this until I can get to the NFL, So I just like set my goals high. Shit, I didn't even make it to college, but at least I was striving. So what happened was, at the end of high school, I was like only being recruited by really, really small schools. And my parents didn't even want to go with me on recruiting trips, and I'm like, damn, like, I don't know. It was just terrible. So then I realized one day, like, yo, I'm of age. Like, I'm going to have to make my own thing move.
Yeah.
So I had decided, oh, what happened was I moved. So the area that I lived in, when I seen that kid get shot, I moved back there. Like when I was maybe 16, 17 years old, because my dad had got out of prison. I moved back there with him, and it was like on the same street. So what happened was, I just like, I don't know, one day I had the realization like, damn, now it's me. It's not this happened to this older kid. This happened to this older kid. Now I am the older kid, you know?
Yeah.
Me and my brother were in the apartment working out. Like, man, we used to just listen to plies and just do push-ups and stuff like that. And our back window was facing, so like you see my window right here, it was facing someone else's back window. It was a dude and his sister. And they would be in there dancing. So they were like dancers, and me and my brother are like football players. We trying to work out and stuff. And we would talk back and forth with them through the window, you know? Like we make fun of them, they make fun of us or whatever. So one weekend we went to my aunt's house, and when we came back, both of them had got killed at a party. So you're like, damn, like this shit ain't just happening to like random strangers anymore. It always, you know, like, and just being in high school, like people get killed and stuff like that, but I don't know why it just hit me different this time that I was a little older, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I got to get up out of here. So I went to go talk to a recruiter. I joined the army, man. I'm like, fuck it, it's a wrap. You know, I got to go. So, yeah, that was kind of what did it for me, you know, like, I realized there was more to life, you know?
Yeah. I've still always been trying to figure out what it is that drives some people, because there's a lot of people that maybe have been in a similar situation as you or I, and, or, you know, maybe better or even worse, but people just don't, some people just have that drive in them to want to do better and know that they have to remove themselves from the situation that they're in to get better.
Yeah,
Like,
I have theories about what it is. I think a part of it is curiosity.
yeah,
I think people stop following their curiosity, or they never listen to it. Therefore, I don't know, like, so for instance, if you're living in the hood and somebody drives down the street with a Ferrari, I'm gonna be like, how the fuck did he get a Ferrari? You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be curious, like, how much does a Ferrari cost? I'm just gonna ask certain questions, like, how do you afford that? Like, how much did it cost? How do you pay? How do you even buy a car? You know, like just certain things. I just follow my curiosity. And then, like for you, you've seen the Eiffel Tower, then you're like, where is this? I gotta get there. I gotta do. It's just curiosity, you know. But some people can't really see like past the future. So whatever they're dealing with is what they're dealing with.
so that makes sense.
Yeah,
And a lot of for us, a lot of people still want to be the man back home. Boy, that thing is what's killing a lot of people, because they want to be known. Like they want to know people where they're at. Like they don't want to go somewhere where nobody doesn't know them.
Yeah, you're right. You sit in your comfort zone because you're always on top of the zone. I know, man. I know. But all right, look. So I got some questions for you, right?
All right, let's get to it.
I'm gonna fire off some questions. I got about 6 good questions.
All right.
Yeah, you let the people know what's up. So
All
my
right.
first question is, how did you get your first 100,000? Right? And I ask this because a lot of people will make 6 figures. Actually, majority of people who make 6 figures will never have 6 figures in the bank. You know what I mean?
Right.
You make 100,000 a year, you cough up a percentage of that to taxes, your cost of living, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Most people will never even have 100 grand in the bank. So how did you get your first, like, what was the first time you looked up and you were like, yeah, there's some commas, there's a comma there and there's some O's after that. And then
I'll never forget. So for me, the first time I got my first 100K, I was living in Portugal at the time. Like I'll never forget. But it wasn't that big of a deal for me, because for whatever reason, it was harder for me to get to 10,000 than it was 100,000. And I'll kind of explain that a little bit. So when I was working towards saving up money, I just always kept spending money all the time, right? I fell in that trap of, we would go party every weekend. We would buy bottles. We would buy new outfits every time we went out. Like we were just always spending so much money. So I'm like, I'm making good money, but I'm spending almost as much as I make every month. So all the money that I'm bringing in, I'm spending it pretty much, right? So I'm like, one time I just actually sat down and just looked over all my finances. I'll never forget, I was 19, I was in Texas at the time. So I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing wrong? So I went over all my, like literally for a whole entire year, I broke down like what I spent on food. I broke down what I spent like partying, like literally broke it down. So I said, okay, I'm spending too much money on clothes. I'm spending too much money on alcohol. I'm spending too much money on going to the club. I'm spending too much money on just everything that's unimportant stuff. Like I'll spend more money on unimportant stuff than important things, right?
Yeah.
So that's when I decided, okay, let me do this. So then I was like, well, let me bring in more income. So I started refereeing. So I was refereeing high school sports. Mind you, I had a full income coming, right? So I had my set income, and then I started refereeing. So the more I was refereeing, like the quicker my money was going up. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, all right. So I started picking up more. Huh?
Like basketball?
Yeah. I was refereeing high school basketball in the state of Texas. So I started out, they start you out at JV, and then depending on how good you are, you can do JV or high school, right? So I was getting probably like about 42 to 45 bucks per 2 games I would do, and I would do every other day I was doing. So I was getting 45 bucks every other day pretty much. And then they were giving me like a gas stipend or whatever. So then I would do tournaments in the summertime where I would get paid like $200 or $300 to do a whole tournament throughout the whole day, right? Plus they pay for your food and they pay for your gas. So I'm like, all right. So I'm like, this is like, at this time I wasn't thinking side hustle. I'm just thinking, okay, this is another way of me getting more money coming in because now my money is starting to grow. All right. So I'm like, okay, this is getting a little bit better. So I moved to Germany, and I'm probably sitting at around like 7,000 or 8,000 in the bank, right?
Okay, wait. I got a question. So when you start refereeing, was there anything specific that you were doing with this extra money, or were you just like saving it?
No, nothing. So at this point in my life, I wasn't in stock. I wasn't in the stock market. It was literally just going to my savings. Like I didn't know anything. I just had a checking and a savings account, and I just kept putting all my money in my savings account. I would give myself like $500 every month to my checking that I could play with, and then everything else would go to my savings. So yeah, I just had a big savings account. I had like $7,000 in my savings account, right?
Yeah, you 19, you feel like the man.
Yeah, 19, right? So I'm like, man, this is kind of cool. I had just got a car, so I'm like, all right, what can I do to pay my car off early because I want to save this money? Like nobody told me about this. It was just things I was clicking in my head. So a couple years down the road, I got my car paid off. So anyways, I'm in Germany, and so I'm not refereeing no more. So I'm back to just making that same amount of money that I was spending. But when I get to Germany, what happens? My spending increases again because now I'm traveling, I'm exploring different foods, I'm paying everything in euro. So it's like
got cut and your cost of living went
yeah,
up.
my income got cut and my cost of living increased, right? So I'm like, okay, this is a no-go. So I'm like, all right, what can I do? What can I do out here to get my my pay increase, right? So this is during the phase when everybody was rocking Jordans. So I had met this guy at this store out there, and me and him became kind of cool. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I can get Jordans out here for next to retail, and back home everybody's paying like $300, $400, $500. So I was like, how about I start selling them back home or just the people, other places that want these Jordans. So I tried out. I go buy like 4 or 5 pair, and they sell immediately, right? So I'm like, oh, okay.
This is before social media. This isn't like
mind you, I never had social media or none of that stuff. So I'm like, okay.
How are you selling them at this time? eBay?
eBay. I was using eBay.
Okay.
Yep, I'll use eBay, and so I use eBay, and they were selling like hotcakes, right? So I'm like, man, this is like easy money, right? So now I'm starting to save. Now I'm seeing my savings go back to increasing again because it had got down to like, I don't know, like 2,000 or something like that because literally money was just going out. So it started to get low. And then I was like, you know what? I know how to cut hair. Like, why don't I start cutting all these dudes' hair, right? I'll just charge $10 a head. Like, so many people are always hanging out at my house. So I started cutting hair on the side. So it's like, now I'm cutting hair, selling Jordans. So I'm like, money is starting to fall in, right? So then I'm like, well, what else can I do? So I talked to this guy, and in Europe at the time, Converse were going for like 120 euro at the time, like about that. Regular Chuck Taylor Converse, right?
Like $30 in the States at the time.
Yeah, they're like, back home, they're like 20, $30 depending on where you get them from, right? So I'm like, there's no way. Like, so 120 euro at the time was probably like 150 or 160 bucks, right? So I'm like, I can get these shoes for like 40, 50 bucks. I can have someone send me like 10 pair of them and then just try to flip them to people out here, right? So I started doing that, and then I'm like, well, what else? What else is out here is overpriced? Well, to me, is overpriced. Levi jeans.
Regular.
Yeah. So Levi jeans, we're going for like 150, 200 euro. Regular Levi jeans that you can get back from anywhere for 25, 35, 40, 50 bucks, whatever, So I'm like, all right, so now I'm really on something. So I found a guy that had his own business out there, and, we made an arrangement like, okay, this is what we're going to do. So then that's when money really started coming in.
And
And
you're
then
stashing all this extra money, or
that's all this extra money away, right? So finally, it took me probably two to 3 years to finally get over that 10K hump, to get 10K saved in the bank, right? That was like the hardest for me.
uh-huh.
So I met this guy. His name was Bill. I'll never forget. He changed my life.
Wait. I got a question for you about this 10K thing.
Yeah.
Do you think it was hard for you to get past 10K because you would get some money and then your emotions will swing, like you're excited or you're whatever?
It did, because when I got money, I would make big purchases. So I bought rims for my car. I got my car repainted. Like I was buying big stupid buys because I had the money. So I was like, all right, what's 1,500? Because I got 7 or 8 in the bank.
What's
so
1,500 to a nigga like me? Can you please remind me?
Exactly, right? So I was just doing all these, like literally just making the dumbest purchases, like rims for, like I think buying rims for your car, like 22s, 24s, whatever. Like that's probably one of the dumbest things somebody could do for.
I bought some before.
I think we've all fell in that trap before.
Yeah.
But so I'm like, all right. So I'm like, man, I got all this money coming in, but it's growing. But I'm like, how can I get it to grow bigger, right? So now I'm in Asia. I meet this dude, and he was like, what kind of laptop do you have? At the time I had like a fucking compact or some bullshit ass laptop. He was like, bro, you got to get this Apple laptop. This was like 2009. He was like, bro, you got to get this Apple laptop. I'm like, nah. I was like, at this time I didn't care about Apple. This is 2009. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, Apple is whatever. I didn't really care. I was like,
I was still in high school at this time. Like,
yeah. So 2009, I'm like, I got an iPod. Like, that's really all I need. And that'd be messing up all the time. So I'm like, I'm cool off of that. Like, a MacBook was like 1,700. So I'm like, man, I'm good. He was like, bro, trust me. He was like, Apple is taking over the world. That's what he told me. He was like so serious about it. So he was like, I got some stock in Apple, and he was like, look how much money they've made me already, right? So he showed me his bank account, and he had made like 5 or 6 grand from the Apple stock. And I didn't know anything about stocks at this time, right? So I'm like, show me how you did this. Like what am I looking at right now? So he had USAA, and he was like doing, he was buying stocks through USA or whatever. Yeah. So he kind of broke it down for me, kind of basic, I can't remember the exact conversation, but he was like, every month, he was like, I don't have any debt. He was like, so every month I just always buy Apple stock. He was like, I just take whatever I don't need and just keep buying as much Apple stock as I can.
So this is an American guy that you met in Asia?
In Asia, American guy that I met in Asia, and we actually played ball together. So he's kind of showing me how to get down with stocks. So now I'm getting very curious. So, all right. So I'm like, all right, let me try this whole stock thing out. So I think I took, at this exact moment, I think I had probably like 15 to 20K in the bank, right?
You remember how much the stocks were?
Huh?
You remember how much the stocks were?
No, I don't remember how much the stocks were, but I can go back and look because I have pictures of it. So I took 10K and bought 10K worth of Apple stock. At the time, I don't even remember. I couldn't even tell you how much it was, right? So I'm like,
judging this dude's like just based off.
I seen how much money he was making from it. So I'm like, if he's doing it, why is it not going to happen to me, right?
Yeah.
So I just kind of let it sit. I do like everybody does when they buy stock. I'm checking like every second, every 10 minutes, I'm going back to my bank and just looking at stocks. I'm seeing money go down. Yeah. I'm seeing money go up. I'm having anxiety. I'm like, should I pull out? I started reading like all these different books and all all the Warren Buffett, I'm thinking now I'm like this little whiz kid or whatever with these little Apple stocks. So something just tells me just let it ride, right? Something tells me just let it ride out. So after I left from Asia, I come back and Apple stock is starting to take off. Everyone knows like around 2010, 2011, 2012, Apple just started going crazy. They started.
iPhone that came out too around that time.
Yeah. So I just happened, like I said, to get into Apple at the time, right? So I had made a lot of money off of Apple that year. So I'm like, all right. So now I'm like, okay, stocks is the way to go, right? So I'm like, what other companies do I think is going to do well? So now I started looking at Microsoft. I got like a little bit of Microsoft stock. I got Nike. I was thinking of all these companies that do well. So in my mind, I'm thinking of, okay, I wear Nike clothes all the time. I wear Jordans. Like everybody has Nike, so Nike's gonna do well. I'm thinking Microsoft has Xbox. Everybody I know is starting to phase from This is the time when people were phasing away from PlayStation and going to Xbox. Xbox was starting to be the thing, right? So I'm like, all right, they have that. So let me get that stock. And I didn't get into Amazon until we met. And then I started getting Amazon, but I wish I would have gotten Amazon at the time. So now I have a portfolio with probably like 15 to 20 different stocks, and they're all big names. Coca-Cola, I had Coca-Cola, I had Pepsi, I had all these different stocks, bro, and I see my money really starting to go up. I happened to get in at a time, like I can't say that I know, at this time I didn't know anything about stocks. I was literally just buying off of emotion.
You want to know what's crazy? You probably weren't even aware that our economy was recovering.
I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware that the economy had just fallen. I wasn't aware where it was going.
That stuff. So we're coming.
I'm just a kid with this money that just looking to try to grow it, right? And all I hear people always talk about is stocks, right? So here I am now with all these stocks and all these different companies. Now I'm selling shoes at a much higher rate. Like I'm selling like 10 to 15 pairs of shoes on a regular. Now Jordans are starting to be the thing. This is when people started getting in line to wait for Jordans. They were selling off the market. And here I am going to the store the next day, you know, because the dude has them to the side from me, and they just weren't selling out in Europe at the time. So it's like
lining up in Europe. Like
yeah,
been, let's say in Chicago or LA or something.
Right. So all right, and now at this point in my life, I'm hovering at like the 60 to 80K point, right? And I'm just like, at this point, I had the rims from the car, I had my car repainted, so my car was paid off. Like I didn't have any debt, I didn't have any responsibilities. I just literally had money coming in. So it really wasn't that big of a deal to me. And then Jordan did something crazy. He started having these European exclusives, right? He started having these European and these Japanese exclusive shoes that I would get for like $150, and I'd be able to sell them for like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a pair. Like the Quay 54s, the Ray Allens, things like that. Like people that know shoes know how much these were going for at the time. Yeah. Like these are shoes that, so I would fly to London. I would fly into London for like a $50 flight, get these shoes at the Nike store in London, and then turn around and sell them for like $5, $6, $7 grand, right? So now you add this on top of the stocks. I'm still cutting hair. I'm still doing like all this other stuff. And then I finally reach it. And then I do something stupid. I go to Vegas and I blow like 20 of it in Vegas, right? Yeah. Because that's probably another reason why I was able to stack so much, is because gambling is like my weak spot. And so I wasn't, being over in Europe, I wasn't around any casinos. So I wasn't able to spend any money. They didn't have stuff to do online. I didn't have any distractions out there. So it was literally just money coming in, and I found other ways to start making money. So it's like when you start finding these ways to make money, you start finding other ways to make money. It's like money finds money.
Your whole mind opens.
Yeah, your whole mind opens. So
if this is possible, then why can't I do that?
Exactly.
It's kind of like making an omelet. Like you start off just like, you know, making an omelet the same way everybody else is making an omelet, and you're like, let me try some mushrooms. Let me try.
Yeah. So when I finally cracked like that 100K mark, it wasn't even a big deal to me at all. I don't think it was much of a big deal as it was getting like that first 10,000.
You think the 10,000 was harder?
Yeah, the 10,000 was way harder because I didn't know about, because at the time I had a car payment, my cost of living was high. So then I started noticing, okay, like what can I get down, like my cost of living, what can I lower to increase me saving, because everything was just high. I just had things just to have it for no reason.
So look, let me tell you my perception of your story. Well, first of all, before I even get to that, I gotta tell the people about your fucking shoe collection.
Oh yeah.
One thing that's really crazy about you is that you'll say the most, it sounds outrageous. You'll say the most outrageous shit in the most calm way ever, right? I remember one day you told me, you were like, yeah, I used to collect shoes. You're like, yeah, I started collecting shoes way before everybody else was doing it. But you told me this while everybody else was doing it. So I'm like, that's what everybody say. Everybody say they're the first to do something. You know what I mean? Like everybody say they're the first to do. It's like, yeah, I started collecting shoes way before everybody else got it. I was selling shoes way before everybody else got on it, right? And then I remember I came to your house. I came to your house and I walked. So you were living, was it 4 stories?
Yeah, 4 stories.
So I went up to the very, very top.
I lived my room was on the 2nd floor.
Yeah, your room was on the 2nd floor. I went to the very top, and you know what I've seen? So many goddamn shoes. I'm like, it was crazy because you just mentioned it so casually. You were like, yeah, you know, I was buying shoes before everybody was a collector. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, like that's what everybody else say. Like, you know, like you have this weird thing where you just say the most crazy shit randomly. Like you're like, oh yeah, I used to live next door to this professional ping pong player, so I'm good. And yeah. You just do this as you're eating spaghetti, like, nigga, no. And then you play ping pong and you're the man, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I'll go to your house. I see this down. I see all these shoes, and then I'm like, this is. You probably had over 20 grand worth of shoes just sitting there at your house,
Right there.
and then you start selling those too. You're like, yeah, I'm about to get rid of my whole shoe collection. And I remember you went on a website, you start selling them. They would send you checks, or they would hold the money, or whatever the case is. I'm like, damn, this is nuts.
Yeah, that was a big come up for me, because overall, like the money I made from just reselling shoes is over the 50K easily.
Yeah.
Off just shoes alone, which is nuts.
Yeah. So, okay. So what I was going to tell you is about your perspective, my perspective of your journey. So it's basically two parts, or how you came up. One, it's you being ambitious and curious, right? It's you saying, I want to referee. It's you saying, I want to cut hair. It's you saying, I want to, if I can do this, how come I can't sell shoes? Or how come I can't do this? And this guy shows you his bank account, and you're like, dang, I can buy stocks too, you know, because the stock market is available to everybody. So that's one thing, right? So we'll just call that like talent. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a talent to follow your curiosity and stuff. And then the other part is the timing, right? The timing of everything. So if you started doing this around 2008, 2009, 10, 11, our economy, you're not even aware of what the economy is doing. But when you look back at our economy is recovering from the recession of 08. So everyone's starting to have more spendable income. All these companies are starting to rebound. All this stuff is going on, and you're just following your curiosity. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. So it was like talent meets timing. That was it. You know what I mean? Like, talent met timing. Boom, there you go. But what's crazy is you can't really predict your own timing. Like, you just have to go follow your own curiosity, and then the timing will come. Like, you're not in control of the market, you know, like whether it's selling shoes, or like you start selling Jordans, and then all of a sudden Jordans start releasing exclusive European styles. You didn't know he was going to do that. You weren't looking for an absolute guarantee. Like, I'm not going to sell these shoes until I know for sure that Jordan's going to drop something so exclusive that I'm going to make all this money. And this is what people are running into now. People want that guarantee that that something's going to happen before they make a move. Like, yeah, but what if I buy all these shoes and I can't resell them? Like, you're looking for a guarantee. It's never going to happen for you. Nope. You know what I mean? Like, you just work your own course, and then, you know, society will kind of make its way for you to become successful as long as you knocking on the door.
I've always been with stuff. Like, I was just like, I'm kind of an impulse type person. I'm like, if I do this, I'm gonna make it work. So if I buy $5,000 worth of Levi jeans, I'm gonna figure out a way to, at least if I don't make my money back, I'm gonna figure out a way to make some money. I'm not gonna like, I have to have a guarantee, you know what I mean, that I'm gonna sell these. Like, no, it's like you get it and then get your back against the wall, and then hey, when people have their back against the wall, that's when you're at your best.
Hell yeah. Damn, man. That's fire, bro. That's dope, man.
Yeah.
All right. My next question for you. How many countries have you been to?
Right now I'm hovering at 90. I'm at like 89 right now. A bulk of that came from me living in Europe. I got to travel. There's about 50 countries in Europe, and I've seen probably like 43 or 44 of those countries in Europe.
The most random country you've ever been to?
Random? Well, the thing is, like, I don't even know if it would be random or not to some people. But one of the most random trips I've had was to Ghana, which is in Africa. For some people that don't know where it's at, it's on the west coast of Africa. This person I was talking to, her family owned a resort out there, and we were chilling at her house, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to go to Ghana with me this weekend?" And I was like, "Where the fuck is Ghana at?" she was like, "Oh, it's in Africa." She was like, "You know, it's right off the water. It's a lot of fun. It'd be a real good time." So, like, I started looking up. I tell her, yeah. So I started looking up things in Ghana, and I'm like, damn. I'm like, what? And then we just go, and I have like the time of my life out there. So, like, random, I would say that. Like, that was probably one of the most random trips.
That's dope, man. A lot of those Western African countries like produce a lot of people that come to America. You know, like Sierra Leone.
Yeah, so I had a good time. But yeah, so a bulk of my traveling came from while I lived in Europe. I hit like I said, about 40 probably like about 43 or 44 countries while I lived in Europe. And then when I lived in Asia, I traveled a lot through Asia as well. So living over in these two countries allowed me to travel a lot and for cheap.
What was this country? You were telling my aunt a story about some country, like they didn't even have roads wherever you were at. Like people were just looking at you crazy on the side of the street.
Oh, that was well, they had roads, but they had a lot of areas where there weren't roads. That was in Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
That was it's a couple countries under Russia and kind of next to China. They have roads there. They drive. It's probably one of the craziest places I've been as far as road rage, like because they don't have any lines on the road.
Yeah. Okay, that's what you were saying. That they didn't have lines on the road.
Yeah, they didn't have any lines on the road, and then like it's just a real nice people out there. The food was like being on Fear Factor every day, like and
Hell no, bro.
yeah, my Russian was not up to par at all. So yeah, I didn't know what I was eating.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna move to your next question, which is okay. So you're into real estate, right? Like, I guess we didn't at the beginning of the podcast. We didn't really explain what we do or how we make money or whatever, how we make money currently. But you're into real estate,
Right.
You have some rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you choose real estate?
Just all the books, because for me, I was one of them people who researched myself to death, you know, and I try to tell people not to do that. But out of all the research that I did, like, you know, when you're looking at these Warren Buffetts, these Mark Cubans, when you start looking at these guys, you know, their portfolios, they all have real estate in their portfolio, whether it be commercial real estate or, you know, whatever it may be, they all have some form of real estate. And then when you look at all these other, you know, lower level millionaires, and it's like everyone's portfolio that you see, they all have real estate in their portfolio, right? So it's some sort of real estate, whether if they're a silent partner, if they're just, you know, the money man behind it, or if they actually own it, or if they rent it out, whether if it's apartment complexes, $1 million houses that they flip, whether it be flipping, wholesaling, whatever it may be, you know, all the people that I've seen,
somehow it's tied to real estate.
Yeah, somehow it's all tied back to real estate, right? So for me, I wanted to figure out, okay, what did I feel comfortable with? What version of real estate did I want to get into? First of all, it's like, what money did I have at the time that I could put towards this, and what can I do to leverage, you know, OPM, other people's money, to benefit me in real estate? So, you know, luckily I found this realtor, and we spent a whole year together before I actually got into real estate. And I had questions for her every other day, and she was great. Sometimes people say I get real lucky with stuff, and I'll tell you I got real lucky with this lady because she gave me the whole ins and outs. And once I pulled that trigger on that first spot, it was just, I never looked back from there. Like
So what was your first spot? Were we talking, you bought your own house? You bought a house for somebody?
I bought a fourplex. A fourplex was my very first. I went big. You know, some people say, you know, you go on like Bigger Pockets and all these other things. They always say start with a duplex, start small, you know, because of managing. But this guy that I know that has a lot of properties, he was telling me, you know, everything is a numbers game. You know, everything in life, like how much money you make, how much you weigh, when your birthday is, what time you were born, what time of the day it is. You know, everything is a numbers game. So he said, once you figure that out, and once you can figure out the number game in real estate, you really can't go wrong. I mean, you know, obviously people say, well, you know, what if the water heater goes out? And, you know, there's certain steps that you can do to try to avoid certain things that, you know, we're not gonna get too much into right now, but there's certain steps that you can take for certain things to alleviate a lot of issues. You know, people talk about tenants. It's like, how good are you screening your tenants? What type of tenants are you allowing in your property? You know what I mean? So some people get these spots in these bad locations, and it's like everything is about location. Location is key. Like, what type of people are you around? What type of city are you in? You know, do you just allow any type of tenants into your properties? You know what I mean? It's things like things that you really have to consider.
It's a lot of issues.
It's a lot of things that you have to consider. And a lot of people just want to rent out their unit. They're so afraid of having a vacancy versus taking the time, screening your tenants, and having the proper tenants in units. You know what I mean? That's like a whole nother story. But for me, I started out with fourplex. You know, I leveraged that, and then that's, you know, it's all about leverage, using that to get my next one, that to get my next one, and so on.
Nice. Okay. So what tips would you want to give somebody who just
for me, I would say numbers. Have your numbers right. If your numbers are right, you can't go wrong. And you know, everyone puts out so many. There's so many things that you gotta take into consideration. You know, you gotta know your taxes. Uh, you know, if you got to pay water, sewer, garbage, you know, your landscaping, getting your water filtration system up to date. If you got any trees that you got to worry about cutting down, if, you know, all these different codes, you know, if the more you know, the better off you'll be. And obviously you're not going to know everything from the start, because there's a lot of stuff, even still, that I don't know, that I'm still learning. Like, I don't ever claim that I know it all. And I listen to what people say. And I take that advice, you know, with a salt and grain. You know, obviously you can't go off of someone's sole word. You got to listen to what they say and do the research and figure it out yourself. So I'll just tell people the most important thing is have your numbers, like get your numbers. Like, you know, your principal interest is going to stay the same. Obviously your interest is going to go down over time, you know what I mean? But run your numbers, make sure your numbers are going to be good. Know the area that you're in. Yeah, that's really, you
Bro,
know,
every single time I bring you a property, I'm like, oh, look, I want to, like, oh, I could buy this. Or you always say the same thing. You're like, all right, this is what you need to know.
yeah,
You need to know. You need to calculate these. Like, you make it really obvious to me that it's not just as simple as this is how much it's being rented for, and this is how much my mortgage is. Like,
right.
you need to calculate your taxes. You need to calculate, you need to break down an average for your vacancies per year. You need to do this. You need to do that. And
it's a numbers game. Like, it's everything is a numbers game. And if you can and the thing is, obviously, you know, sometimes things happen and things will go wrong. That's just with anything. But if your number game is strong and you do things the right way, you know, take the time to get a home inspector to make sure those water heaters are good for the next 5 to 10 years. Do things to make sure that there's no mold. You know what I'm saying? You got to take these certain steps and find these people, network with these different people. So for me, like I told you, I have a CPA that does most of my taxes. I interviewed like 12 different CPAs because I needed them to allow me to sit down with them so they can show me what exactly they were doing.
and if they aren't willing to do that, then they're out.
Yeah, and so half of them weren't willing to do that. And so my thing from that is I need to see what exactly they're doing, and then I also need to know where I can improve. Yeah. So a lot of people don't even think of doing that. That's the type of mind frame that I have, is like, okay, like, why did you put these numbers in there? But what would be different if this number was higher or this number was lower? They're like, well, you can get a tax break on this if you do this. So it's like you start learning all these different things as you go. But the most important thing, like I said, besides getting into all of that part of it, is just make sure your numbers are good. Know everything that you're going to have to pay for. And if your numbers are solid off of that, you almost can't go wrong.
Bro, it's like, like the way you would describe it to me is like you do the work up front. You know?
Yeah, you gotta do the work up front. That's what a lot of people don't. A lot of people just expect to get money right away. You know what I mean? A lot of people just want to fill units just so they have a tenant. But what if that tenant is just going to trash your spot? And now, you know, they're probably not going to pay you for 1 month's rent, and then now you got to spend all the time trying to do renovations. You know what I mean? It's like little things like that get a lot of people. So,
all right. The other questions that I had for you, we pretty much already talked about them. So let's see what you got for me.
All right. Let's see. Oh yeah. So we talk about this one a lot, but you talk about it a lot more than I do. Why do you think it's important for people to understand that nobody is coming to save you?
Because it's like if you were to calculate how fast it takes to turn your life around, you do the work versus how long it will take for systems to change, it's going to be a drastic difference. For instance, if you put your head down and just grind every day for 5 to 6 months, your entire life will be changed at the end of that 6 months, right? If you sat around and waited for a government to make a policy, wait for the president to change, wait for your damn mayor to change, wait for your school to start, waiting for school systems to start teaching finance, blah, 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 those changes happen very slowly, and they're never with your best interest in mind, right? So whatever the president is going to do, that's his whatever narrative he wants to push. What the media wants to talk about, it's their narrative to push. Nothing about this is for you. The only thing that's for you is what you do, you know? And just based on human, like, instincts and development, we're all like selfish creatures in the first place, you know? So everyone's going to act with their own self-interest. So we seem to understand that from like an economic standpoint, but when it comes to like personal finances or personal decisions, people seem to forget that shit, bro. Like, yo, why do you think that the Democratic Party is about to come save you? Why do you think the Republican Party is about to come save you? Why do you think Santa Claus is about to come save you? Why do you think anybody's going to come save you? If you want to lose the weight, go to the gym, start eating right. If you want to feel better about yourself, get the negative people from around you. If you want to get wealthy, you need to start selling shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's very simple. You can change your life. You can change your life in 4 months versus waiting 40 years for somebody else to come save you.
And
it's a speed thing.
That's one thing that I never understood, is that we have control of who is in our life and who isn't in our life, whether if they're family or not. Once you turn 18, you know, you have full control of your life. You can literally get a one-way Greyhound ticket to Timbuktu if you wanted to. Yep. So it's like, I don't understand why people allow toxic people to stay in their life. Sometimes I think they want to keep those people around because they don't want to do better for themselves. Like,
or that's comfortable not having drama.
Or exactly. Like, some people just love having drama and they need that drama in their life. So I'm like, I hear people say, oh, I'm so tired of this person in my life. They're so toxic. I'm thinking, like, why do you allow them to stay in your life? Like, just move on.
They talk about how toxic they are to that, to that person too, because the other person probably says the same thing.
Yeah. All right, bro. My next question for you, and I feel like this is an important one. What is one of the most important things that you have learned while you were abroad that you still use it today?
Something I learned like a long time ago?
No, something that you learned while you lived abroad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Something important that you learned while you were, you know, over in Europe that you still either use that knowledge or you still value it today.
Okay. One of the most important things I've learned about the European way of life, especially like the Germans, is that family, like a family is the priority for the entire society. You know, shops are cut down on or closed down on a Sunday, you know, because they want you to spend time with your family. Like, traveling is cheap and affordable because they want you to go do that, you know? So it's like family comes first. Therefore, when you do have all this extra time, it's cool to go to people's houses and hang out with them and, you know, or take trips or go to the lake with your friends or do whatever, you know? And in the American way of life, family isn't the priority. It's money. Money's the priority, right? So if you wanted to blend the best of both worlds, you would just get the money so you can buy the freedom so you can hang out with your family or hang out with the people you love. So living abroad, that was the most important thing. It's very obvious. Like, I bought a round trip ticket from Germany to England, $22, $11 each way. And then I started to ask myself, why is this not possible in America? You know, like, it's because money it's all about capitalism. So the most important thing I learned is, you know, your free time, your downtime, yourself, your family, you know, everyone that you're in contact with are important. And you want to structure your life to be able to see them, to be able to hang out with them. If your friend's getting married, you need to be able to fly out your ass out there. You know what I mean? Like, if your mom just needs your shoulder to lean on, you better have the means to go to her. You know what I mean? If she needs some money, if she needs some time, if she needs a new car, whatever the case is, you got to put yourself in the position to be able to help people, you know, your siblings, whatever. But it's that family is very important. Your family, your friends, you know, because you make your own family. You're a part of my family. So you can just make your own, but you got to go spend time with people and you got to be able to spend money to spend time. So you got to buy your freedom.
Yeah, to touch on that a little bit, the thing that I love most about a lot of the European countries is that most of them don't have senior citizen homes. It's just not a thing out there.
Yeah.
Grandpa and grandma stay in the same house. So it's like, probably, you know, a lot of those homes go back 3, 4, 5 generations, but somebody in that family bought that house and it's just passed down to generation to generation to generation.
Or built the house. They either bought it or built it.
Out there, they don't have a once you turn 18, you're out of the house. Like, no, they don't operate like that. Like, they want you to stay at home because they want you. They're not saying don't work. Like, they're not lazy. Europeans aren't lazy. Like, majority of people out there work, but it's like, you don't have to worry about paying rent. It's like, okay, you just you save up for the next 5 years, and then you go start a family, and then you guys have the money from you saving for 5 years to get your house. And then now when you guys start a family, you pass it down onto your family. And they literally have a cycle that keeps going on like that. And then when people get older in the family, what do? They take care of them. They don't send them off to an old people home. It's not like, oh, we don't have time to do this, because certain generations set things up to get them right. So it's like our culture is like, oh, once you're 18, you're out on your own. Like, go to college, go get in debt, go do this. Like, you got to be out. Like, you're 18 now, go on your own.
And what's crazy is, like, some European people live in houses that their great grandfathers have built or their great grandfathers have bought, right? So this is what's crazy. So imagine, like, all right, you and your great grandson, right? Chances are you're never going to meet him.
Right.
Chances are you're never going to meet your great grandson, right? But imagine you can do things right now that'll make sure that he's taken care of. You never, you know what I mean? You never even see, you don't even know what his name's going to be, you know?
And that's what people are so, you know,
like legacy, you know?
Yeah, Americans are so like, we need to live in the now, like YOLO, like you can't take the money to the grave. Like, that's why I tell people, keeping that mindset will keep you broke, and it will keep your family broke. Like, you're not doing, like, obviously you want to have fun now, but you also want to be looking out for generations to come. Like, you want to, like, at what point do we stop and be like, all right, it's not all about me. It's going to be about my kids, or it's going to be about my kids' kids. You know what I mean? So it's like, we got to start doing things now, like getting property, getting stores, getting laundromats, getting gas stations, getting car washes. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to go to the league. Everybody wants to be a rapper or a singer. Like, you know, that's great. Do that shit on your free time. Let's be realistic here, and let's get some actual.
It don't take much to build something or buy something. You know what I mean? Oh, there's a lot.
It doesn't take much at all. Like, you can leverage other people's money to get these things, and then eventually buy them out. Like, it's really not that hard. Once somebody gets their money back and they've made money, and then if you offer to buy them out, that's more money. Like, it's so much easier than what people think. Like, people just are like so caught in the now, or, you know, they want to live home. And home is like a LA, or it's like a New York, where cost of living is ridiculous. Like, it's not rocket science that it's expensive to live in these cities. So if you're not making the money to live in these cities, why are you living in these cities? Like, you can move away for a couple years, stack up your money, and if you decide maybe you want to go back, then do that. But I guarantee you, if you leave and you see how much money you're able to make, and you see your lifestyle starting to change, you're able to do more things, you're able to travel more, you're able to spend less time having to worry about work, you're able to spend more time with family and friends. Like, your whole way of life just changes, versus when you're in these states and you're living paycheck to paycheck. What is your focus? The next paycheck. You don't have time to go spend with your friends. You don't have time to go take flights. And
you can't even relax. You can't even sleep.
You can't even relax because you got to work. Like,
because you got to go to work, because you think about it. It brings us anxiety, blah, blah, blah. It's crazy, man. But that's because people don't put themselves first. If you put yourself first, you know, all right, look, I live in LA. I make $22 an hour. My rent's $2,400. That's not fucking cutting it. Let me move somewhere else, enjoy my life. You know what I mean? Like, put yourself first. And they say, oh, what about my family? Like, all right, cool. When you get to, you know, wherever you going, when you get stable, you could probably, the difference you're going to pay between, like, rent in LA and, let's say, rent in, like, Houston, like here in Houston, for the difference, you could buy a ticket home every fucking month. You know what I mean? Like, but bro, you gotta take care of business, man. Like, you gotta take, because it's your bloodline that's counting on you. You know, it's your kids that's like, bro, think about this. Is what I always think about. What if my children aren't as strong as I am? Yeah. So what if I hold back on, you know, trying new things or trying to become as wealthy as I am, and then let's say my kids end up being really passive and they're not really like that. That's okay, because I've already set you up. You know what I mean? Like, if my daughter wants to sit around and draw her coloring book until she figures out life, cool. You know what I mean? Like, cool, we gonna argue about it, but in the meantime, you gotta go do anything you don't want to do, you know? So I always think about, what if your kids aren't as strong as you? You out here bullshitting. There's so many opportunities that the internet has made all these opportunities available for us, and we're not taking advantage of them. And then you got to think, like, man, one day, I always think about this. I always think about how one day our kids are going to read in the news how so many people became wealthy because of the internet, like because of social media connected people. Yeah. And then they're going to go look you up and find let me go look for my granddad's account. Let me go look for my dad's account. Let me go look for my great uncle's account. And they're going to say you was bullshitting this whole time. You know what I mean? Like, you was just sitting around cracking jokes, trying to be funny all goddamn day, you know?
That's what everybody wants to do. I'm like, if you think about it, all the people I know whose parents are successful, they're pretty much successful as well. So
Yeah.
everyone I know whose parents, you know, went and did this, they pretty much follow suit. So it's like, if you set that bar for your kids, you pretty much are setting them up for success. So when you learn, when you go figure out how to do something, they'll be able to turn to you like, hey, dad, or hey, mom, how can I do this? How can I start my own brand?
Yeah.
Or how can I get into real estate? Or how do
Yeah.
I invest in stocks? Something that we didn't have. We didn't have anybody to turn to. You know what I mean? So imagine a random version of you coming up to me asking me, hey, bro, how do I get into stocks? I'm like, I don't know you. What am I going to help you? Like, how am I going to help you out? Like, I don't know who you are.
Yep. And what's crazy too is, think about this. Let's say you stay in the real estate world. I stay in the e-com business world, right? Let's say we never cross paths. You never go to e-com, I never go to real estate. I'll just send my son to go learn from you. You know what I mean? Like, because I'll just say, yo, what took him years, 20-something, 30-something years to figure out, he figured out on his 30th birthday, you can go figure it out right now, age 12. You know what I mean? Like, you can go learn that quickly, you know, like, or you can go figure out at the age of 8, you know, like, it's so crazy, bro. It's so crazy that once you develop yourself and you bring like-minded people around you, then, you know, the family just grows, you know, like the family becomes stronger, the individual becomes stronger, the community becomes stronger. So yeah, man, you got any more questions for me? Let me see what else you got.
Yeah, another one. So out of everywhere, you know, you're starting to get your feet wet with this whole travel thing. I know your number is up there pretty high too.
Yeah.
What's your favorite city in the world that you've been to so far?
In the world.
What's a place where you're like, you know what, I would always want to go back there. Like, I just had so much fun. I had such a good time. The whole vibe was right. Like, I would just always like to go there.
Bro, you know what I'm about to say. It's Greece, man.
Greece,
bro. Like, something about living right on the water with some, I don't know, living on warm water with fresh ass fruit.
That water was so warm, like it don't even make no sense.
Man, just kicking. I'm like, if I could stay in one of these little damn houses right here in this ocean, I mean, next to the ocean forever, I would. So I would say probably.
You want to know something that's crazy about that response? Is that, do you remember what was going on in Greece at that time that we were there?
I didn't know while we were there, but I found out afterwards that they were going through a recession.
They were going through a recession. So if we had the same mindset that we have now, what do you think that we could have done there?
Buy everything.
So
everything.
The properties were like dirt cheap out there during the time.
You're shopping at like 80% off at this point.
Yeah, properties were literally, we could have bought like a villa for probably 15 or 20 grand, if that.
Yeah, like we could have bought it all up. And that's what's crazy about what was happening. That's what's crazy about what happened in the 20s and what happened in 2008-ish, is that a lot of people went broke, but a lot of people who were ready got really wealthy because they were shopping at discount. You know what I mean? Like, this is why you got to stay ready, take advantage of opportunities.
Stay ready. When that bubble hit, this guy I met out here, he bought up 150 properties in Phoenix back when that recession hit. He bought up 150. He said he got each property at about 20 to 50K for each property. And now all those properties, none of them are worth less than 225.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro.
It's like he had the money. He said that more than half of his properties he couldn't even rent. He couldn't even rent them out, but he just held on to it. It wasn't hurting him at all. Like, he wasn't fazed by it. He has like a whole block, I guess.
I think that's what's important about like keeping your cost of living low too. Because imagine if you come up with some money, whether you start a business, whether you do whatever, you come up with some money and you're just out like because a lot of people still live paycheck to paycheck with a high income. But so if you're making, let's say you make $100,000 a year and you don't even got 60 grand, so you've been making 100,000 a year for the last 10 years, you don't got 60 grand saved. You know what I mean? So,
and you know, we're keeping up with the Joneses, get so many of these people people that there's a lot of people that make 6-figure jobs. I know it's hard for a lot of people to grasp this, but there are a lot of jobs out there that pay 6-figure jobs.
A lot.
Guys that work these 6-figure jobs, and you can tell which companies it are because if you drive by the company, look in the park. All you gotta do is drive through the parking lot. You can see the type of pay that company has, right? So, all right, let me give you an example. Telecom type companies that work for, you know, if you work for Sprint, Verizon at the telecenter, if you drive through those, you see like a lot of Hondas. You see, you know what I mean, a lot of Fords or Chevy. You know what I mean? Okay, but if you go to a tech company that's right across the street, you see Mercedes, you see Porsche, you see, you know what I mean? You see all these high-end cars, but it's like, you don't need to have a high-end car. Like a lot of these people have these high-end cars to try to match the value of what they make. They want you to know, like, look at me, I make six figures.
They're
like,
showing you right away. It's the same thing with high-end fashion. Like,
right.
For me to buy this shirt right here at Target was $10, but I could have bought the same exact style of shirt for $300-400, and I'm not buying it because it feels better. I'm not buying it because
of the name on it.
I'm signaling to everyone else that I'm that guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just signaling.
These people that make, and it's not even in the big cities. There's small cities, you know, like let's say Portland, for example. Portland's not a big major city, but there's people out there that made six figures, and you could live comfortably in Portland for 45 to 50K a year. But the person that makes 100,000, instead of having all of their expenses down to about 40, 50,000, they have it up to 98, 99,000 a year, to where they maybe have 1,000 in savings.
They might have it at 110,000.
They might have it at that. So it's like, don't try to, people try to overcompensate. You know, they go get a bigger house, they get a pay raise. So this girl used to tell me, she was like, why don't you drive a nicer car? Why don't you live in a bigger place? Like, why? Like, why? Like, why don't you spend more money? She's like, she was like, you have the money, so why don't you do this? Yeah. I try to tell her, I was like, having money doesn't mean that you need to have big things or big brands to associate you with money. Like, first of all, why do you even want to associate yourself having money? Like, why do you want that to even be known?
You were talking about, you know what? Me and you were talking about that. We were in Germany last time, because there's a lot of people that say, like, you know, you get money to impress women and blah, 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 all this stuff. And it's like, if you're out and about in a city and you're just mingling with people, nobody knows who the hell you are, what you do.
They don't even know if you have a car or not. They don't even know where you live.
They don't even care. Is your conversation good? You know, like.
That's literally it. So, yeah. And we've just been brainwashed as people for so long that if you make money, if you make an X amount of money, you need to have these certain things, or else you don't make that money then.
Yeah, I know, man. When I was in my apartment in Riverside, someone said that. They said, if you make all this money, why do you live here?
Like, I want to know what the ratio of people that make over 100,000 that actually just live in an apartment or have a roommate. I bet it's very slim to none.
Yeah, I know.
That's very slim to none. But the people that do that, guess what they're able to do? They're able to save up probably 80% of their income by doing that. And you don't even have to do it forever. Like, literally just do that for 2 or 3 years and you're good.
Yeah. I can't even tell you how peaceful it is right now for me to know that if I never received a single dollar, I could survive 10 plus years.
Yep.
I could survive 10 plus years without working. Like, I got this money. Here goes my rent money. Here goes my food, blah, blah, blah. I'll run out in 10 years.
In 10 years, you can get another job within 10 years. You can start another company within. There's so many things that you can do.
Yeah.
And you're not going to want to just be like, all right, I got this money, so let me just sit back and chill. Like, that's what people don't understand. People that have money don't just sit back and do nothing. They do more. Like,
they buy their free time so they can go make more money. Yeah, like
exactly. People think people that have money, they're like, oh, you have so much money because you have the time to make money. Like, no, you had to work to get that money, and then when you got that money, everything you did to get you that far, you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and then you find other opportunities. You meet other people. You get introduced to different circles. It's like you level up. Like, you don't just kick back and put it on cruise control. Like, you keep that pedal down to the metal and you keep going to get more. Like, you don't just get out just because you make, just, you know, if you have 10, 100,000, 500,000, $1 million in the bank, like, you don't just like, all right, that's it. Like, I'm done. I'm not going to work. You think Bill Gates doesn't work anymore? Yeah. You think Jeff Bezos doesn't work anymore? Like, these dudes still work. And these are the richest men in the world, and they still work. Like, what?
Bro, check this out. I just had this argument with somebody on Twitter because I sent out an email yesterday that said that money doesn't sleep, but you do, right? And it was just like my little tagline to get people to sign up for my email list or whatever. And this guy goes, "Oh, the richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos says that he sleeps 8 hours a day, and you're telling people not to sleep, right?" And it's crazy because I never said don't sleep, right? And then my whole counter argument to this whole dude is, do you think Amazon was making money while he was sleeping?
Right.
You think he had to wake up to go make the money? No. People are Amazon. Whether he's asleep or awake, he's alive or dead.
He's making money.
Whether he travels outside the whole atmosphere, it's making money. That's what I mean. Like you, of course, it's so much easier to sleep peacefully at night knowing that you got systems or you got businesses or you have investments or assets, some type of vehicle that can earn while you're sleeping. You know what I mean?
That's the thing that a lot of people misunderstand is that they think that you have to, by getting your cost of living down, they confuse that as giving up your fun or giving up your freedom. Like, no, like that's not what it means. It doesn't mean that at all. Like people just really just don't get it. They're like, oh, you know, if you're paying $500 a month for a car and I tell you to get a used car, that's good. They're like, but how am I going to get to work in the used car that you have? What do you mean? Like,
car, yeah, like
literally,
either drive the newest car or don't go to work.
Like, there's people that drive around. I seen like a 1995 Honda Civic or Accord the other day. That somebody, it wasn't the nicest car, but I'm like, man, they must have that car paid off forever. Like, you don't need a brand new car. Like, you can have a car that was made in 2002. It's not gonna, like, people just think used cars are gonna break down. That's literally not how it works.
I know. Hey, look, check this out. So I gotta go, but there's this one guy on Twitter, official Von Z. This dude's like a loyal follower of mine. Like he always has good energy and stuff. So he has a question for us, and it says the best way to make 5 figures in 6 months with little to no resources.
With little to no resources?
Okay, so I'm gonna assume that he means little to no money because he probably knows. I hope he understands that like the internet is a resource, and obviously he's on the internet. That's why he's asking this question.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest for him to do is the easiest way to make money without having money is to simply use your resource, the internet, to bring attention to yourself. How do you bring attention to yourself? You provide value to other people. You teach people things. You talk to people about things. You tell your story. You're going to gain an audience, and then you can start affiliating for people's courses. Like you hopped on Twitter and started affiliating for my courses right away. Like, and this is a side hustle for you.
Right.
You made money the first day you did it. And it didn't take, what did it take? It took for you to make a Twitter account and then come up with a tweet. And then the tweet went viral.
My third tweet went viral.
Your third tweet went viral.
And I had your course attached to it.
Yeah, and you had my course attached to it. So what did you make that day? Just that day alone?
Just that day alone, I think like 1,200. I think like 1,200.
Off of a viral tweet.
Off of a viral tweet.
And affiliating for someone else's course. So how much money did that cost you?
My very first day on Twitter, my third tweet on Twitter.
So how much did it cost you?
It cost me $0. I guess if you want to throw my cell phone plan in there, you know, I pay $50 a month for my phone. So
no, but so I see Von Z. I see that you're on Twitter a lot, and you want to know how do you make money on Twitter? How do you make money without resources? But Twitter is a resource. The internet is a resource. So in the same amount of time that you can, you know, retweet me, and I appreciate you retweeting me, you can start building an audience for yourself and then sell some. What is it that you're good at? Can you help somebody file their taxes? Can you help somebody create a budget? Can you help someone lose weight? Can you help somebody become more organized? What can you do? And then how can you convey that message to the world? And it costs you $0 to do that.
$0. Yeah. So his question was to 5 figures is what he said.
Yeah, to 5 figures in 6 months. You could do it in 6 days.
In 6 months. Well, okay. So that was your approach for him. So my approach for him would be to sell. So I was doing phone consults. One of the guys, I don't even know if he wants me to say his name or not, but he was doing about $200 to $500 a day reselling profit when he was literally just doing it full time, full at it. So if you're doing on a low end, if you do about 100 to 200 a day, that puts you at about $3,000 in a month. You can get about up to say $3,000 a month if you're doing maybe 100 a day reselling different items.
Yeah, that's
so yeah, 6 months
specifically, or just reselling anything he could.
Really anything you can get your hands on. So this is why I try to tell people is the more you sell, the better you'll be, because the more items you start to sell, the more you'll see what people want. So if you just stick to one thing, how do you know that? So say you sell shoes, everybody loves to resell shoes, right? So if you're just constantly selling shoes, and great, it's working, but why not keep doing that and then let me try a purse.
Yeah.
Or
Let me
let
try
me
furniture.
find, let me go to thrift stores and find big screen TVs and sell them in the college campus area for $50. I found this big screen TV for 10. Let me go sell it for 50. You know what I mean? Like, like things like that. So people look at it as penny pinching or whatever, but it's really not if you think about it, because if you're doing 10 items a day at $10 profit, that's $100 that you're making in that one day.
Yep.
So there's easily, I can think of 10 items off the top of my head that I can sell for and make at least a $10 profit.
And you could go find free stuff like on
OfferUp, Let Go, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist.
I mean, Craigslist has a free section. You can go pick up stuff and then resell it.
Yeah. So it's like, it's really, it's about how dedicated you are and how much you want to grind. Because if you take 10 hours out of your day, 5 of that you're going around finding items. The other 5 you're taking good pictures. You're posting on all these different sites. Yeah. So it's like, how bad do you really want it? Really, because it can literally be that easy to make So I can. What time is it right now? It's almost 7. I can still go right now and I can make $100 today easily. I can go make $100 in probably about an hour or 2 hours. If I really wanted to, I can go find something. Yeah. I can go find probably like 5 or 6 items, resell them for probably about $15, $20 profit per item, and already have my $100 a day.
Hey, you want to know what's crazy? I say this all the time. Look, people ask questions like this. I'm not saying him, but people ask questions like this. In reality, like I've said this on Twitter before, most people have never in their lives made $1,000 in a day, right?
Right.
They can literally wake up on a Saturday and go have a car wash and make $1,000. Most people aren't truly interested in making money. They just they want to make money in their own comfort.
In their own comfort. They want to be in their comfort zone. I posted a tweet about go find a nice neighborhood where people park their cars outside. Go door to door, explain to these people why it's important to get your car hand washed compared to going through a car wash, because a car wash is going to ruin your paint. So you tell them, look, this is what I offer. I'll wash your car, I'll wash your rims, and I'll vacuum your car out for $15. You don't even have to leave the house. So when you're out there washing their car, what is their neighbor going to do? They're going to be curious. What are they doing? I'm like, oh, yeah, don't worry, I got you guys next. And then what do? You offered like, okay, I'll throw for extra $5, I'll throw this tire shine on your tires and have your tires sparkling. Or I have this, you know what I mean? Upgrade.
Cars. I'll do exactly. X amount.
Exactly. So it's like you can find 10 cars, it takes you probably about 20 minutes to wash a car good, probably 15, 20 minutes to wash a car good.
Bro, the thing about the things that you can walk up to someone's door and ask them, it's crazy. If you don't like that confrontation because it's a little uncomfortable, you could just leave a flyer and then have them contact you.
That easy.
Cars, cut grass, change oil, walk dogs.
Your pets. Like, there's so many different things that you can offer. You're like, oh, do you love your pets? Like, do you work full time? Well, this is the service I offer. I do a dog walking service. I'll come, pick your dog up. We'll go on a 30-minute walk. I'll change out his bowl. I'll change his food. I'll do it for $20. Like, you have the safety. I'll even send you a selfie, me and the dog out hanging out, and I'll send you a picture so you can see your dog while you're at work, so you don't have to be worried what your dog is doing. You know what I mean? It's like little things like this. It's just a mind frame that a lot of people don't have. They just don't. They want to do what they do. They want the money to come easy, I guess, is what it is. But if you think about it, how hard is that? How hard is it to wash a car? It literally takes no skill. You don't need to be certified. You don't need any skills to wash a car. How hard is it to walk a dog? You don't need any skills to walk a dog. Like, all this money is easy money. It's just not what you want to do. It's just not easy money to you. Yeah, that's what people. Yeah.
You know how you said something about jeans earlier?
Yeah. Yep.
Selling Levi's.
Yep.
So, you remember Margaret, right? So one of her friends started a jean company, and he ended up scrapping the whole thing, and he just had a bunch of these jeans in a warehouse. So they were all my size. So she brought me about, I don't know, maybe about 50, 60 pair of jeans, right? All the same size, they just had different designs to them.
Right.
I took a picture, I posted on Facebook, and I said, $25 a piece. And I literally drove around to all my old friends out with the high school. Some of these kids, I haven't seen them in 10 years, and I was just selling jeans out of the trunk, right? And it was just something that I had to do. Like, I had the watch company at the time, and I had the social media marketing company, you know. So this was just something I did. But anyways, I drove around the city probably for about 4 hours the first day, dropping off jeans. And then the next day I did the same thing. And when I looked up, I probably sold about 40 of them for about 25 bucks a piece. And then I gave the rest of them to my cousins, you know? And I'm like, damn, that was easy. That was, oh, your friend has some extra jeans. Let me get them. You know, I'll sell them real quick.
Exactly.
But hey, anyways, I gotta go. But yeah, this shit was fire. So hopefully y'all enjoy it, y'all love it or whatever. Follow him on Twitter, no time zone _. Follow me on Twitter, CJ_Johnson17TH. And we'll be back with another episode soon. All right, peace.